The Russian winter is coming, and it's not good. We human beings devour our environment big time. An average American consumes more than 3 million pounds of minerals, metals and fuels in a lifetime. Odd, huh? It takes not only a village, but also a lot of iron ore, copper, zinc, aluminium, petroleum, coal and much more for a baby to reach their senile age. But this could change, and the change is big. February 24th, 2022. This may be the date future historians call it the beginning of the end. But what? When? Where? What end? What do you mean? Let's start with Yara. No, not this Yara, that Yara. The big fertilizer company whose CEO has warned about an imminent global food crisis. Swain Warhol's there, I hope I'm not butchering his name, has warned about a global shortage of fertilizer due to the huge shortage of ammonia, the basic component of fertilizers, and to make it even more exciting, he has added things are changing by the hour. For about 100 years, this humble substance called ammonia, being produced in industrial scales, had quadrupled the population of our Earth by enriching the global agriculture. Now, with ammonia price skyrocketing because of COVID and all, food in general and especially important crops like wheat and rice will become rare and more valuable soon. Crop production in Canada, Europe and the US has already been damaged by the fertilizer crisis. The ongoing drought in the Middle East and North Africa means that their food security is threatened in an unprecedented manner. But what is rendering the newly recovered world hungry again? Who is to blame for this? Before our inertia lock comes in, we should take into account that the agriculture is a chair on three legs: fertilizer, fuel and workforce. Well, we talked about the fertilizer shortage. What we need to know yet is the largest fertilizer producing country in the world is Russia, a country now at open war with Ukraine, and at not so open yet perfectly visible war with the West. Russia and its closest pal, Belarus, together export 18% of the fertilizer the world needs. And they say they are not going to export their fertilizer to non-friend countries, so the fertilizer price is doubled just in 1 year. Fertilizer accounts for the 1/3 of all the costs a farmer has to cover. This has already affected the world agricultural production. With the price of fertilizers soaring, Brazil, for example, the largest exporter of soybeans, has decreased its soy production. A US farmer in New Mexico has to pay 240% more for the liquid nitrogen fertilizer, and to cut 30% of the fertilizer means 1/4 of his cornfield must stay empty. All eyes are now on the holy crap of the cattle, the glorious manure, and the manure supplies are already running low. So much for the fertilizer. The second leg of our chair is fuel. For a bundle of wheat to travel from one part of the world to the other, or a sack of fresh donkey crap to pass the Atlantic Ocean, we need fuel. But fuel is in no better shape. In the last 10 years, the oil industry has seen an investment decrease in both discovery and production sections. The corona pandemic has only made it worse. Now demand for oil is growing. But how about the oil supply? Major oil exporters are in trouble. Tensions in the Middle East are high. Iran's oil is long sanctioned, and Saudi oil is threatened by Iranian threat. In 2019, Saudi oil facilities had been hit by Iranian missiles. 5% of the global oil export was off. This could happen again, and now Russian oil is being sanctioned too. Russia is one of the largest oil exporters in the world. No surprise that the global petroleum price is soaring. Gas price is at a record high everywhere throughout the world, and especially in America. President Biden is encouraging biofuel production in order to assuage the gas crisis, and biofuel is mostly based on corn. Corn is one of the most important crops in the world because human beings and cattle both consume corn as food. So meat production is linked to corn production, and now President Biden wants a huge chunk of it to be used in the fuel industry. Russia and Ukraine, the two major exporters of corn, produce 20% of the world's corn combined. With the Russian invasion of Ukraine now, 1/5 of the exported corn is off the picture. The war in Ukraine has also endangered 30% of the wheat previously exported by Russia and Ukraine. These two are also responsible for 12% of the total calorie consumed by the world population. All is now gone. Russia is not going to give it to the West. And Ukraine, well, it's a little hard to work in cornfields under Russian missile attacks. One more factor to be taken into consideration is the insurance cost. The effective transportation of Ukrainian crops is only feasible through the Black Sea, a body of water now plagued with Russian hostile ships. The insurance cost for the Ukrainian ships is sometimes 3,000% higher than the peacetime. Now the chair is only on one leg, the human being, the worker, but it is not going to endure. No chair can stand on one leg, least of all the leg that is now jobless after COVID, and no one needs its services. Here is Margarita Simonia, a Kremlin propagandist, at the St. Petersburg Economic Summit in Putin's presence. There will be famines after which they will lift the sanctions and become friends with us because they will realize that it is impossible not to be friends with us. The UN authority is even more skeptic. David Beasley, director of the UN World Food Programme, WFP, declared the coming of the frightening shortages that destabilizes countries that depend on wheat exports from Ukraine and Russia. He said that the food crisis had begun even before the war. Because of COVID and fuel price flight, Ukraine used to grow food for 400 million people throughout the world. Egypt, the most populated Arab country, depends on both Russia and Ukraine for 80% of its wheat. He concluded with the ominous prophecy, "We are facing hell on earth if we do not respond immediately." This means poorer countries probably see hunger riots and regime changes. The poorest will see famine and mass starvations, and richer ones will see various degrees of food shortage. This is not a good image for the world, and now we know who is to blame for it mostly. This man, Vladimir Putin. But when all these latent issues will begin to kick in? Dmitry Alperovich, the American analyst, has given an interesting answer to this question. At the beginning of the invasion, Putin believed he would have an easy and swift victory. "So, what is your plan for the war with Ukraine?" "Easy. I take Kiev and I take the entire country." That was a dumb plan. Putin failed. He had to think fast and change his tactics, or he would soon see himself in a huge trouble. He wanted the sanctions off, so he had to force negotiations. But negotiations can go nowhere without a lever. What would be his lever? That would be the coming of the winter. Now Putin needs to drag this war well into the cold winter of Europe, when many EU states import more than half of their natural gas from Russia, including Hungary, Finland, Estonia, Slovakia, Bulgaria, and, well, if it isn't Mr. Germany in the queue asking for the Russian natural gas. Of the two next biggest natural gas reserve holders, Iran is sanctioned for its nuclear issues, and Qatar only exports LNC, which is the liquid form of the natural gas. In EU, the richer countries like Germany and Austria will pay more for the natural gas they can get from anywhere, leaving poorer ones abandoned. Viktor Orbán of Hungary is already sniffing the problem. The unprecedented inflation in food and energy sections have raised the interest rates of the American and European banks, most likely leading to a Great Depression. Putin is putting his money on the likelihood of the free world losing interest in providing Ukraine with financial and weapon aids due to the coming of the winter and the food and energy crisis that follows. Now Russia has become China's largest oil supplier, and because of the high energy prices, the Russians are now literally swimming in cash. Although if the sanctions continue, there is no bright future for Russia, but Putin is trying to conclude the whole thing in 6 months. If he keeps Donbass and Kherson and Zaporizhia, he thinks he can get significant concessions from Ukraine during the winter. Also, if Ukrainians fail to take back parts of their land in the next 6 months, they must expect a considerable drop in the foreign aid. This is not good for Ukraine, of course, but also it is even worse for the rest of the free world. A Russian winter is coming. And if Russia wins this struggle somehow or another, then this will change what is coming for the rest of the world in the near future. Let's see and hope that these speculations are wrong. Until that time, stay safe.